Hey, Better Babes. Welcome back to Getting Better. And today we are getting into a little bit of a medical mystery, honey. It's hot. It's sexy. Some even say it's sensual. Okay, I was kind of kidding. It's actually cancer. And I'm sorry that we're covering just like such light topics over here on Getting Better. Like we're giving you death lately. We're giving you cancer today. But honey, we got to destigmatize. If we're too scared to ask the question, we're going to be totally blindsided if we have someone in our life that has it or gets a diagnosis. And I want to be not unprepared. I want to be prepared. I want to be ready. And I also think that with information is power, and then we're less scared. So today we're asking, how can we understand cancer better? So to help us unpack all the cancer questions, we have none other than Dr. Stacy Wentworth. How are you, Dr. Wentworth?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Can I just say, you're a vision today. You're gorgeous in this bright pink. And also listeners or watchers, whoever, do you know that Stacy and I, can I call you Stacy or should I call you Dr. Wentworth?
Stacy is totally
Are you
fine.
sure?
Yes, unless my mom is listening and then
Dr. Wentworth.
Dr. Wentworth.
Oh, you're
yes.
sorry. No, actually, because I want to put some respect on that. Dr. Wentworth and I were just talking, and it turns out we're both like Illinois little town people. I'm from Quincy. You're from Downs, Illinois, right?
That's correct.
But which is just very close to Bloomington.
Correct.
How far away from Bloomington is it?
15 minutes.
Yeah, because like that is very much giving me like what Ursa is to Quincy.
Yes.
Or like what Palmyra. Yeah, you're just like, come on, Palmyra. Yeah,
you're just, don't throw out a Palmyra.
You know, I will throw out a Palmyra right here, right now, honey. We're doing it. Yeah. And my violin teacher, shout out Chris Lowe, she was in Palmyra. I had to drive there a lot for my violin lessons. I once hooked up with a drag queen who was in Palmyra. Their trailer was in Palmyra. I was 18 and I was going through a lot, okay? Like you had to, I met the drag queen on gay.com because that's all there was back then. And he did live in Palmyra. But what I loved about him is that he just kept his nails on all the time because he was too lazy to take his nails off between performances. And I just thought, you better work. And you know, if you still are out there and you listen to the podcast, hope you're doing well. Anyway, I didn't mean to take that diversion. Let's get into cancer. So, okay, let's just start off fundamentally. First off, you are a doctor, you're an oncologist, you're a speaker, you're an award-winning author queen. As someone who is an oncologist and a doctor, do you think we will find a cure for cancers like in our life? Or is that just going to be like a 2700, like the year 2700 thing?
I think we're the closest we've ever been. And I am a practical Midwesterner. So my husband sometimes would call me negative. I call myself realistic. And so I don't want to give people false hope, but the scientific progress that we've had over the past 25 years has just launched us into this beautiful time right now that I am so optimistic that in my lifetime, we will cure or control cancer a lot better than we ever have before.
I love a piece of good news. You know, I think we need some silver linings out here in these streets. So that's good to hear. So let's back it up a little bit.
Sure.
Also, I'm doing this thing right now where on my Instagram, I've been like sourcing some like listener questions.
Sure.
And we're going to get into those listener questions, dun, 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 on our Patreon, which we just started a little bit ago. So if you want to log in and get on the Patreon, Steez, you can get over there because really Dr. Wentworth and I are going to be answering a lot of those questions over there. But I remember my stepdad who coincidentally passed away of cancer. But I remember him telling me on like a road trip when I was like 10 and his mother had cancer. And we were talking about cancer. And he was like, well, they'll never cure cancer because there is too much money and all the treatment to keep. And that is something that we hear so much. And that was certainly something that was like a lot in the questions. Do you think that there's like a nefarious boardroom of like people that are like, how can we prolong like not getting a cure to cancer so we can keep treating people? Or do you think there is that boardroom and also there's like scientists and people who are doing really good work and they're like really like trying to find cures, but then like, what do you think? Like, why do people think that?
Well, I think the only thing more powerful than capitalism is a doctor's ego. And if a doctor discovered a cure to cancer and that Nobel Prize was out in front of them, they would run over their mother, their grandmother, and everybody else to get to that Nobel Prize. So just the conspiracy that would have to happen to keep that doctor away from a Nobel Prize Like, I have sat with these people for 20 years. They're some of my classmates, and they are so driven. This is what you need. You need someone who is going to like Western blot something every day and make sure the beakers are clean. And
what's
there's
Western
no
blot
soap.
mean?
Yes, it's a wonderful test for investigating different forms of cancer.
Is?
Yes, but it is so precise. There are people that spend 10, 15 years in this tiny little area of cancer to try to just move the field forward just even an inch. And they dedicate their whole lives to that. So if you have people that are that focused on that, unfortunately, the way that we developed cancer treatment back in the day when it first started, we were kind of in this post-infectious understanding. So
When was that?
So that was like in the 1950s. We had developed the polio vaccine. We had discovered penicillin. And so we thought cancer was really going to be like bacteria. Like cancer was one thing.
Let's go baseline.
Sure.
What is cancer?
Sure. So our bodies form cancer cells all the time.
Ew.
Yes. Our bodies make mistakes, and there are different mechanisms that catch those mistakes and repair those mistakes. So our body is constantly saying, hey, that guy looks kind of weird. That's not the way that cell's supposed to look. Let's get him out of here. And part of that is our immune system. Part of that happens with DNA replication. So is there, for example, something in the map that our cells follow to reproduce? If there's a problem in the map, then they go in and repair the map. Or if a kind of weird looking cell comes out, they say, yeah, no, that doesn't look like a GI cell. As we age, or sometimes as we inherit, if we have inherited different problems in that, in the mechanism for detecting cancer or detecting cancer cells, those cancer cells go undetected and then they start to grow and reproduce. But our bodies are naturally producing cancer cells all the time. We just catch them, either destroy them or repair the map that created them.
I have an idea for analogy, and then will you tell me if it's right or wrong?
Sure.
Okay. So basically, like, your body's just like making these like conveyor belts of like cells.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
And then there's this like one type of cell's job who's like on the side of the conveyor belt where it's like, looks cute, looks cute, looks cute. That one looks fucking crazy. Get it out of here. Like, put it in the garbage. Like, that one needs to go out the pooper.
I love it.
And so the cell who is like the supervisor, the shift supervisor on your conveyor belt, if it goes to lunch or is gone for too long, and then a couple of those cancer cells go undetected, and then they all get together and make a little tumor or whatever. Is that what it is?
That's correct. Yes.
So what's the name of the ship supervisor's cell? Like the cell who's like in charge of like being like, these all look good or bad. What's that kind of cell?
Well, there's many different mechanisms for that to happen.
So my
our body
not
is
good enough.
No, it's wonderful.
It is?
Yes. And the reason, if I can build on your
Tell
analogy,
me.
the reason that cancer happens most often as we age is because the supervisor is like back in the office eating donuts and taking a nap and drinking coffee rather than out there making sure that everything looks right. So
Yes.
no hate on supervisors.
Yeah, they need rest too.
Exactly. But as we age, just like everything gets tired, so does this mechanism for detecting cancer cells. And that's why cancer cells or cancer is a disease usually of the elderly.
So it normally happens with like older people, cancer, but also like it can happen with like all sorts of different ages. Do we know all the causes for cancer?
We don't. This is another hard part about cancer. And going back to what we talked about before, when we originally, well, not you and I, we weren't alive, but when people first started thinking about cancer, they thought cancer was something that we could totally eradicate from the body. So for example, the radical mastectomy, if they talked about amputating women's arms or amputating their legs because they thought that the cancer was spreading. And the reason that cancer came back is because they left one cell. So if the cancer came back, it's because a surgeon didn't do a good job. And now we know my professional hero, Bernie Fisher, who I did the podcast about, he was the first one to say, hey, no, cancer is systemic. So it is in our bodies, in our bloodstream. You could have a tiny cancer that's sending off cancer cells in the bloodstream. You can do as big a surgery as you want. But once it's in the bloodstream, like we can't reach that with a knife. We have to do something different. So then we shifted to chemotherapy, and that just kept us on this focused path that landed us really in a cul-de-sac for the last 25 years, where we just kept saying, where's the magic bullet? And that speaks I mean, we talked about a little bit like hope and why everybody always says, here's the next cure for cancer. Like, how many times have we heard that? And it's hard to keep hope when you think, oh my gosh, here's this next headline that we found the cure for cancer, but still my loved one develops cancer and isn't cured. Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard for people. But what we were really focusing on is finding the magic bullet, like finding that antibiotic or finding something that targeted one single cancer cell. But what we know now is cancer cells develop in each one of us. So my cancer, if I got a cancer, would be different than your cancer because my cells are different than your cells. So we're trying to study this disease that's different in every person. It's like kids are different. Like trying to say this is how this kid is going to learn to read or this is how this kid learns. Like, no, every kid is going to be different. That's why, it really takes an individual approach. So now instead of focusing on trying to find this like one size fits all, which we all know it's not true in anything involving humans, we're really focusing on what makes a cancer cell. And can we target that error, like when that supervisor misses the crazy cell and allows it to go through? How can we find that and correct it at that point rather than waiting until we can detect or find cancer?
Social media is an insane landscape for cancer. I mean, you are scrolling the algorithm and I will on any given day see something about someone traumatically losing someone from cancer, someone who has a new diagnosis of cancer, someone who's talking about their experience. Just it's kind of everywhere. It's all over the place. Is social media helpful for us in understanding cancer or is it more hurtful?
Yeah, social media. That is a whole thing. So I think it's always better for patients to be informed. And the great thing about social media is that it's entertaining and it's accessible and it's people that we trust talking to us. So I think in those ways, it can be a really great place to get your message out. The bad thing about social media is that it's not a vetted and trusted source of information. So people can just say crazy things. And sometimes we can say crazy things and we're saying it on social media, but it's really just us verbally processing something that's happened to us. So we have to be really careful when we are taking our own care or our loved ones' care from social media. Instead, I think that there really is a democratization of information. So oftentimes a patient will come in and have done all the research, have gone to several trusted websites that we can put in the show notes and researched what their disease is and sort of have a baseline understanding. And because, which we'll get into probably later, cancer has become so complex. It used to be like, here's your cancer, here's your surgery, here's the one chemotherapy we have, boom, that's it. And we can cover that in 60 minutes along with side effects and how to treat them and all that. Now, we're like, here's your 3-year plan of immunotherapy, of targeted therapy, maybe of a bone marrow transplant, but we still as doctors only have 60 minutes to explain that to you. So really doing pre-work when you come in and learning as much as you can from trusted sources is really helpful. But I find sometimes because patients, everybody wants the best for themselves. I know that to be true. And so they'll come in having somebody forwarded something from Facebook to say, hey, ask your doctor about this. And instead of spending 20 minutes on what their plan for cancer can be, we instead spend 20 minutes sort of going through this myth or half-truth. And I just feel like that's not really what the patient really came for, but they're so nervous and they're grabbing onto something from somebody they trust in their friend circle or in somebody on social media. So I really think we need to have a conversation about how you want to spend your time with the doctor and how you want to spend that first minutes with your oncologist.
So it's really important if you do have a diagnosis, like really kind of like doing some pre-research from trusted places. But to the social media part, I mean, I feel like I see people on social media talking about not wearing sunscreen, like only like eating steak and butter, like a lot of just that to me is I think what's a little, and just people that are constantly just very on that like Maha train and like very like sowing distrust with like the medical community and trying to find like a conspiracy and everything. I feel like that's a big danger with social media.
It is. And I've seen it a lot since the COVID vaccine. So I really was not I was used to walking into a room and a patient saying, okay, great to meet you, doctor. Like, let's go over my treatment plan, have some back and forth. That's one of the reasons I love being a doctor, is to have a conversation with the patient. Like, where are your goals? Where do you want to go with this? But to have a defensiveness when you come in that you think your doctor is going to like make a bad decision for you. Like, I took a Hippocratic oath. I went to school for 13 years. Like, I have your best interest in mind. And I'm also vetted by the health system that I work for, the hospital I work for, the insurance companies that I bill for, my boards, like all of us are very well vetted. So you can come and talk to me if something happens that you are not happy with. If you follow somebody on social media and they say something crazy, like they're gone, like that TikTok is gone, that reel is gone, you can't get in touch with them. So I really feel like being discerning, we're not talking about something very day to day. We're talking about cancer. And so I really think that there's a difference between listening to people and like laughing at like cat reels or bunny reels, or talking about getting ready with me videos because, oh my gosh, that person is like perimenopausal like me. Like, how do you keep yourself from sweating during the day? Like, I love it. I'm going to watch it. But when you're talking something about as serious as cancer, like get off the social media and let's go to trusted sources and let's be serious about this.
Analogy again. I think I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, Chris, so tell me if this is like just beating a dead horse, but I got the speeding ticket in Phoenix in 2006. And instead of like getting the points on my insurance and having to like pay that full price, I did like the diversion program, you know, where you have to go to driving school.
Yes.
And in that driving school, I learned they were doing a drunk driving thing. And they were saying like, if you ever think that you don't want to pay $30 for this cab ride to go to the bar, so you just drive yourself, the minimum DUI expense is 10 grand. By the time you get out of the lawyer, the judge, all that stuff. So that $40 you thought you were saving, just think of it as paying 10 grand and get the fucking cab. Like, it's not something you want to save money on. And I think about that with healthcare and like early detection. It's like, yeah, you're giving someone however much it costs for a mammogram to find it out early. But it's like, if you let that develop all the way until it's late stage cancer because of HIPAA, like those people are still going to get treatment. And is that part of why the costs are so high? Because some people are developing things so late. And because wouldn't more preventative care actually lower healthcare costs across the board? But Republicans are such stingy, godless fucking cunts that don't want to fucking help anybody. So they've just defunded every fucking bit of access for people living in poverty.
The current approach to healthcare is very individualized. And rather than saying we're all responsible for our neighbors, which we really all are.
That sounds like communism to me. You know, being responsible for my neighbor. I don't want to pay for her fucking mammogram. If she wants a mammogram, she needs to pull herself up out of the bootstraps and fucking figure it out and get one herself. Because I'm not going to pay for these other people's health insurance.
It is very frustrating. In North Carolina, we worked really hard to expand Medicaid, and it was a bipartisan deal that was signed into law, and over 600,000 North Carolinians got healthcare coverage through Medicaid. And now the state is not going to have, and that was after losing billions of dollars by not taking some of the subsidies that were available to help provide coverage from the federal government, our money that we paid to the federal government to provide healthcare services for our fellow North Carolinians. But now with the Medicaid cuts that are happening, states are going to have to pare back costs. They've already decreased physician payment, hospital payment, nursing home payment. I mean, nursing homes are already pretty running on a very thin line.
Right.
So you decrease that cost, and that cost cutting has to come somewhere. And I think all of us, as we know, medical bankruptcy is a huge thing. All of us are one step away from just financial disaster due to a healthcare situation. So wouldn't it be better to just have some sort of baseline level of care for people with cancer?
But do you think that there is a correlation between the lack of preventative care or like the lack of a universal health care that does make healthcare more expensive?
Yes. Anytime we catch cancer later, it is more expensive. So I think there are a couple parts to that. One is access. So we're both from rural areas in Illinois. I don't know about you, but our hospital in Bloomington, Illinois was recently purchased by a large conglomerate. So it is not your local doctors taking care of you. The decisions are being made far, far away from where my family lives in Illinois. And also to drive somewhere to get care is 2 hours to St. Louis or
Right.
2 hours to Chicago, or everybody in the Midwest likes to go to the Mayo Clinic.
Yes.
So that is not accessible to most people, especially, for example, when it's harvest season or when it's planting season. So it's not just having health insurance, but it's also having the healthcare providers there to provide care for you. So many doctors, for example, might be afraid to practice in areas where they couldn't provide abortion services if that was needed. Okay, well, why does an oncologist care about abortion services? Well, I do, because people who are in early pregnancy get cancer, and sometimes we have to terminate a pregnancy in order to save the mother's life to start breast cancer treatment. But also, those same OBGYNs are the people that are screening for cervical cancer and also advocating for HPV vaccination. We can prevent cervical cancer if we could just get enough people vaccinated for HPV. So, if you have to drive 3 hours, say you're working an hourly job, what are you going to tell your boss? I'm sorry, I have to go see an OBGYN for my annual appointment and I'm going to miss half a day of work, if you can even get it off because you don't have paid medical leave. So it's all of this insurance plus valuing a healthy society. And I think part of that valuing is, we could talk about food deserts, you can talk about pollution, you can talk about chronic stress. All of this is very important and it feeds into cancer. And unfortunately, a lot of that burden comes on women and it comes on children.
So that was a huge source of questions that people had when I was sourcing just asking my audience. I was like, what are your questions? And people were like, how are we supposed to get healthcare screenings and access to cancer screening with such little healthcare and such limited healthcare and such limited access to healthcare? And so what do you want people to know before they or someone they love gets diagnosed with cancer that we haven't covered already?
Well, I'll answer. And then, having a personal experience, I'd be really interested in what your experience was with your stepfather, who, reading your memoir, you were really close to, and your mother as well. I would really like people to examine the fear that they have around cancer. You said it in the intro, fear is not the answer. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The antidote to fear is knowledge. So cancer is becoming increasingly complex. And I think we need to educate ourselves and have these hard conversations with our friends. Nobody wants to sit down and just start talking about cancer. We all want to talk about whatever we're watching on Netflix or whatever we're watching on whatever streaming platform. But I think it's really important for us to start forming a community around cancer, because you know someone who has cancer, who's going to have cancer, who's supporting someone through cancer. So there is someone in your community who's going through cancer. And this may lead to the next question. How you respond to that person is really important. And you really need to pre-think that before you just blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind.
Yes, I feel we were talking about this with our nurse, Julie, who we love so much.
I loved that episode. It was so great.
I mean, I love her so much. And I thought I did too. But I mean, I think for me, my first kind of understanding of cancer or brush with it was actually my grandmother, whose hair I ended up doing every Friday for 3 years when I lived in Phoenix. She would snowbird there. And when I was she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer when I was 9, and she was actually given like a few months to live. And she was like, I'm not having that. And she and my grandfather went and got second and third opinions. And they ended up essentially just microwaving her and putting so much chemo that she beat it randomly. And she died when I was 22 of complications from dementia and Alzheimer's. And I'm pretty sure it was stage 4. And they were like, there's no way around this, but they were able to beat it back. And she didn't need it wasn't forever. She was on chemo for 2-3 years, a ton of radiation. So sick, but she figured out a way to make it through. And I think she didn't figure out, they whatever. But the point of that is, that was actually not a great thing for me to understand at 9, because then every time anyone ever told me that they were diagnosed with cancer after that, until literally 2 years ago, I would tell that story. So instead of me being oh my God, I'm sorry you're going through this, how can I support you? It was you can beat this. My grandma beat it. And it just, so I think I really didn't do a good job, probably hearing pain, holding pain, understanding someone else's experience with it, because I was my grandma beat it, you can too. So it's probably not a fun soundboard to talk to about cancer for a long time.
I don't know. I think having a positive experience, I can say that the things I would not say to a newly diagnosed patient is everything happens for a reason. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. You got this, girl. Or going into a story about your best friend's uncle's dog who died of the same cancer a day after being diagnosed.
Yes. So positive experience could be good.
I think so. I think it's good to put that positivity out there and allow that person to at least have a positive experience and just say, I have become relatively cynical about how human beings process a cancer diagnosis in another person. I think when somebody says the word cancer to us, we are processing our own fears around cancer.
Yes.
So we're like, oh my gosh, if this healthy person who's my friend can get it, then that means I can get it. So what's going to happen there?
So I feel like people just distance themselves from that person then.
Yes.
That's what I've seen, especially doing hair. Like I've had so many clients who've gotten cancer.
Yes.
And then they talk to me about how their friends and family, they just feel like have deserted them.
Yes, because it's a really hard conversation. So I think whenever people ask me, what should I say when someone has cancer? I say, don't say the first three things that come to your brain. Like say them to yourself or turn to the side and say it quietly and then turn back and say just what you said, which was so perfect. I'm so sorry that's happening to you. I want to be here and support you. And then follow up with that person 1 week later and say, this is what I had in mind to support you because you're my friend. Don't automatically start bringing the casseroles. I mean,
Yes.
we know as
like,
Midwesterners,
I want to give you a ride or I couldn't
Yes.
do food. Like what of these three things can I do?
Let me take your grandma to her hair appointment.
Yes.
Let me take the dogs for a walk.
Yes.
Like the person with cancer and their care partner does not have time to manage a schedule in addition to their cancer schedule. So figuring out, this person, I would say don't buy anything with a ribbon on it. They usually have enough stuff and they don't need any more stuff.
Unless it's like really fucking nice. Like you're talking Hermes bag, you're talking like a nice piece of jewelry. Like if it's super fucking crazy nice, like
go ahead.
Don't not give the person with cancer like a fucking new Hermes bag or something.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, because like if I get cancer, like you can fucking get me like a jewel or like a great bag. Like, yeah, I have fucking cancer. I need a new fucking bag.
Give it to me.
Yes.
Yes. So I think that there's a way.
I really like navy. Hopefully I don't get cancer, but just if you're listening to this, like, and if I do give you bad news or just news that I didn't want, navy, green.
Listeners, are you writing this
down?
Yeah,
love navy and a green. It's been on my Hermes wish list for quite a while. Haven't got the navy or the green yet, but that's okay. A lot of cancers now are more like they can be chronic. They're more like you're living with cancer. You'll have it for the rest of your life, but it's like it's chronic. It's not like a terminal illness necessarily. So what does it mean when cancer becomes a chronic illness and how common is that?
Yeah, so it's becoming increasingly common. So we've really increased the survival for metastatic breast cancer, for example, from 2 years to 5 or 8 years, which is just the median survival. So half of people are living longer, half of people aren't living that long. But it's also improving quality of life. So we're doing more quality of life studies, not just that we're keeping people alive, but they're going on with a relatively unaffected lifestyle. So we can talk to people that are going back to work. And sometimes that can be really difficult because, again, in the way we think about cancer, we think it's like a one and done, like you survive or you don't. But moving cancer into a chronic illness also has to allow us to shift our conversations with our friends, family, and loved ones. Because let's not forget, we're not talking about some abstract citizen. I mean, you've just personally told me about 3 people in your life that have had cancer. Like, this is affecting all of us. So like it or not, you can put cancer over here, but it's coming into our school pickup line, it's coming into our workplaces, and it's coming into our families. So we need to understand, so what's the goal of your care? Is the goal of your care cure? Is the goal of your care control? And that really will help us support those people and their care partners better, because there's usually a family or a group of people going through this cancer journey together. And the more we can understand as the people that are coming alongside them, the better community we can have for people that are going through cancer treatment.
I mean, we've seen in the disability community people who put their bodies and life on the lines to gain access to rights for people that have disabilities. And in your work, you draw comparisons between the HIV advocacy movement and the breast cancer movement. What do we need to know as we go into really uncharted territories with defunding of programs? We're making healthcare more scarce. What do we need to know about advocacy in relationship to healthcare?
Follow the gay men.
So many things make that true, you know?
So in all honesty, the breast cancer movement is one of the most widely understood cancer movements. And actually, they took the pink ribbon from the red ribbon from the HIV AIDS activists in the 80s and 90s. The AIDS activists were the first people to advocate for disease-specific funding. Said, our friends, family, loved ones are dying of this disease. Government, do something. And it was women in the early 90s that got together and said, women have been dying for this disease. I mean, Jonathan, I don't know if you realize this, but up until the 90s, women were not in clinical trials. So
we've talked about that in the podcast. It just blows my mind.
They didn't even do experiments on female mice. I mean, it was so nuts. So it was citizens coming together and not relying on doctors, not relying on researchers, and arming themselves with information. So not just going and saying like, hey, we want this thing, but they had an agenda. They wanted funding, they wanted attention, and that's what they got. So I think it is not helpful in any disease community to start separating based on diagnoses. I think we really need to work together for better access to healthcare, for universal access to healthcare, and also for just improving our overall quality of life as Americans. That, I think, is where we need to go together. And I was in my research for the book that I'm writing and for the podcast, I read a representative who told one of the breast cancer advocates early on, politicians will not move unless they're afraid of you. And so you have to, and I'm not saying physically afraid, I'm saying you have so many voters behind you that they need to make a change in their policy. So I think what we're really going to have to do, and I have one more thing I want to say on this, but I think what we're really going to have to do is we're going to have to get together at some point and just say, absolutely not, this is not good enough. And that is going to have to be all of us. Too many people are dying. Too many people don't have access to healthcare. This is going to change, and we're going to make it change, and we're going to make you change it. But until we have that movement, I don't know that there's going to be just a lot of like this and that going on. Recently on Substack, I wrote a post about why I'm hopeful.
Yes.
And I know these are dark days, but I was watching the comedian John Mulroney.
Yes.
Yes. And he did a set and a bit, which is wonderful. And it's called A Horse in a Hospital. And he talked about how we have a horse in a hospital right now. And just when you think the horse catcher is going to come and save you, the horse shoots the horse catcher and runs into the ICU. And you're like, what is going on? And it made me think about, I was working in a rural health clinic, and the therapist, I came into work and the therapists were like, oh my gosh, Dr. Wentworth, you will not believe what just happened. And they're like throwing their phones in my face. And this deer had walked in, the air conditioner was broken in the clinic, and this deer had walked in through clinic. And so the deer is kind of like in this like sketchy cell phone video for a while, just wandering around. And then all of a sudden a nurse off camera like calls a name and the deer just goes crazy. Because obviously a deer doesn't know how to act in a cancer clinic.
Yeah.
And the staff is like closing doors, and the deer finally like goes out the front door, and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And the deer like turns around and was like, that was crazy. But I think if we think about that, I have seen a deer in an oncology clinic. We have seen a horse in a hospital. We have seen things that we didn't think were possible. And now we have a chance, after seeing things that we didn't think were possible, we have the chance to build back a better healthcare system for all of us. One of the things that we can look forward to is rebuilding. And we don't have to rebuild the system the same way it was built for us. We don't have to rebuild our inherited system. We can build something better that is more equitable and serves more of us, and particularly focuses on prevention and early detection of cancers.
I mean, but where are you getting this hope from? What have you seen that you're like, where is it?
When cancer research was set up, we didn't know anything about cancer. Like I said, we didn't even know that cancer was a systemic disease. Like we didn't know anything about how cancer cells behaved, where they spread, how they formed, nothing. So really the way that we set up cancer research was, let's learn about this thing because we don't know anything about it. And that's sort of how we've operated, is let's learn about this thing. The way that for example, Department of Defense operates is they say, we want a battleship. Go subcontractor, here's $1 bazillion, build us a battleship. These are the specifications we want it built to. It is possible in cancer that we tell our government, I want a cure for rectal cancer. Go build a consortium of people who are the best and brightest and cure rectal cancer. So that's an example of how we could reconfigure healthcare to really work better for us because we have so much knowledge. It's not that the old ways were bad. I don't want to be a purist about it. It's exactly where we needed to be. But now we have the opportunity it's going to be rough for a little bit, I think.
I mean, we've literally just moved so far away from that.
Correct.
I mean, we've just defunded like so much of our research, not all of it, but so much of it. And do you think that next best step starts with us making healthcare more of a central part of our voting, like making people galvanize around healthcare more?
Yeah.
And is it just unfortunate that like people just often don't make that a because I think for me, I didn't become such a huge abortion advocate or activist until I had HIV. It was like me getting HIV and having to navigate the social safety net of HIV and like the Affordable Care Act and like navigating my health insurance and stuff. No one should have to like do that alone and with like no support. And I did that with like very minimal support, very much alone. And I think having to be forced into like, and also just Planned Parenthood is where I got diagnosed. Like Planned Parenthood is like where I found out that I had HIV, and without that diagnosis, like I could have been in my community, like passing it around and doing all sorts of stuff, not even knowing. And so I'm really passionate about Planned Parenthood and the role that they play in communities, keeping them safe, and the way that they've been demonized is just so frustrating. And the work that Planned Parenthood even does in cancer prevention is so important. So, but it's just like, I would have never been that passionate about it if I hadn't had something affect my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more that people can know how common cancer is, like it's going to affect all of us at some point. So don't pretend like this is something that you can just like, it's not like dodgeball where you can just like hopefully avoid it forever. Like it will. And also I think by people sticking their head in the sand with their health, it's part of what has made our costs so much higher. Because like if things are always, like if you're not finding out until the very, very end, it's just always going to be way more expensive and we're so afraid of things. One thing that I missed that I think is important, how do you think that we can reframe cancer generally for people to not be so afraid of it? We have these like this vernacular around like battling cancer, and it's this battle. And you were saying like, you know, like God won't give you more than what you can handle. How can we start to reframe cancer so that we aren't as afraid of it?
Cancer has always been with us. It's something that's happened since the beginning of human history. And so there's never going to be an emergency about cancer unless we create it. So I think part of that is just reframing cancer into something that we have control over and we want to cure for. And I think it's never helpful to operate from a fear crouch. We're not going to make the best decisions for ourselves. We're not going to make the best decisions for our loved ones when we're acting out of fear. And I think socially and societally right now, we're just in sort of a fear crouch.
Yes.
And it's a very passionate.
We're fighting or flighting.
Yes. And we're constantly at a cortisol level of up here.
Yes.
But I think that is how we can be easily divided. But if we can come back together and know that everyone is struggling with something, and perhaps that fear is what is preventing us from connecting to the other person. I will say during COVID, we never shut down. So cancer centers never shut down. We just kept treating. Patients kept coming in, whether they were sitting in their cars or they were sitting socially distanced. And some of the most beautiful community that I saw were from people from completely disparate social groups, meeting in the waiting room, all masked, all of them having this communal experience of cancer and saying, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten to talk to anyone except my family. Let me talk to you. And that group became a very strong, like core group as they were going through treatment, because it's a very common experience and it really takes everyone down to the basics. Like, what are we here for? We are in cancer.
So this is going to be a little bit rapid fire because I got like a bunch of questions and not that much time.
Great.
Okay, ready?
Love it. Yes.
And some of these are fucking intense. They're like big ass long fucking questions. So you're going to have to like just give it to us as fast as you can. Okay, ready?
Ready.
How many as a field, like in oncology, do we know how many cancers were like already there or could be like from exposure to something? Like you get exposed to HPV, you develop cervical cancer. Like, because not everyone was like born with something that was just going to get cervical cancer. You probably had to be, right? Like for HPV, you got to be exposed to it, correct? Like for the human papillomavirus or whatever?
Yes.
Because when we say like, why isn't there a cure for cancer? Like, aren't all cancers like kind of wildly different?
Yes. And the things that go wrong in our body, we have really taken a very narrow analogy, which is the supervisor and like Lucy and Ethel on the chocolate machine. But actually, they're part of a huge factory, which is our bodies. And so different things can go wrong in different parts of the body. So that's what makes cancer so complex. And that is what makes things so exciting, like immunotherapy. Like, can we train our body? Be like, hey, supervisors, new training video. Let's start looking for these guys. We're going to need everyone, all hands on deck, looking for this.
I've read about this immunotherapy. What's immunotherapy?
Yes. So immunotherapy is really training our bodies to help us fight cancer. So it's saying, hey, go look for these guys. And also there's targeted therapy, which sometimes gets lumped in with immunotherapy, which is saying, we know this cancer has this specific mutation. Let's go and just sort of like a sharpshooter, we're going to target that one little area and target like a cell kill mechanism that just kills the cancer by just specifically targeting this one thing.
It's like the one thing, like the Jenga that like just undoes the whole little like tumor puzzle.
Yes, and it all falls apart.
So there are some really hopeful ideas for cancer treatment coming out, like your immunotherapy, your targeted therapy.
Yes, we are. That is what makes this time of decreased scientific funding so disheartening in cancer treatment, because we have done the basic work. Like, we have done the hard work, and now it is time for cancer therapies to like take their twirl on the red carpet and really for us to get the return on investment that we've been making in this very mundane basic science that was discovering all this stuff. And now we have the opportunity to really put that into humans. So
and we took this opportunity to fucking defund it to give Elon Musk and his fucking billionaire friends a fucking tax break. But that's not permanent. We don't have to do this. Like, we can change this.
We can always
We can do a different big, beautiful fucking bill. Like, we can, but we're going to have to like come together and really center healthcare like never before. And I think when you talk about it from a ROAS perspective, like your return on investment, like, we have spent so much money and it's gone to like defense contractors in fucking Libya. Like, get the fuck out of here. I want our cancer treatments. Damn it.
Go get them. Follow JVN.
Yes.
There's an interesting, so Dr. Susan Love was a breast cancer survivor, a surgeon. She was giving a talk in Salt Lake City as this breast cancer movement was coming together. And she was so frustrated by the lack of funding that she said at the end of, I think this was during the George W. Bush administration, she said at the end of her speech, what is it going to take? Us marching topless on Washington to get breast cancer funding? And she just said it as like to get the crowd going. But as she walked off the stage, there were dozens of women waiting to sign up and they were saying, where do we sign up to like march topless on Washington? And she was like, oh my gosh, this is a movement. And that's really how it got started.
I do think the free the nipple thing is so important. Like why do women like not get to just like, but women should be able to show their breast, like put them on TV, put it like, if we just put women's breasts like the same way as like men's bodies, like it wouldn't be this thing where like women are so like, oh, like this, like it would just be more normalized. It's like people are bodies, like we're just bodies, just like literal sacks of flesh running around here. But I do feel like it almost keeps like women as this like forbidden fruit, you know, like, oh, like you can't see their breasts, so it makes like men all like fucking like ravenous and fucking insane. Like if you just had women like washing their hair like tits out on a Perts Plus commercial, men wouldn't fucking lose their mind and turn into fucking ravenous animals from when you know what I'm saying?
Join the movement.
Yeah, just like put these tits out, okay? Like fuck me. Okay, it's time for our last segment, which is listener question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, our listener asks, why do I want to have sex with JVN so bad all the time? Oh, that's not even about cancer, you guys. That's insane. Okay, that is like such an inappropriate question to ask in front of Dr. Wentworth. That's outrageous. I'm just kidding. That's not what the question was. I have to really get it together. Our question is, as an oncologist, what is something that you do not do? Like in your life, you're like, oh, I don't ride with no seatbelt. If you were like an autopsy expert, sort of a thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I will tell you something that I do.
Okay, tell us what we do. What should we do?
I am taking menopausal hormonal therapy.
So you're not afraid of the hormone replacement therapy. I like that.
Yes.
Come on, Tamsin Fadal. We've been covering menopause a lot on the pod. I'm really into menopause right now.
I know you have. And it's definitely trending. And I think that there was a lot of panic about breast cancer and less impact on heart disease and these other,
Oh, what was that
on-
whole thing about like hormones and heart disease? Were they saying that estrogen could give you heart disease or something?
The study started hoping that we could give women hormone replacement and prevent heart disease.
Oh, and is that a thing?
No, it wasn't. The magnitude of benefit was very low. So it was technically a negative study, but it really got blown out of proportion because there was an exaggeration of how it increased the risk of breast cancer. But really the increase of breast cancer in taking menopausal hormone and therapy is really an increase to maybe 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 10,000. It's very, very low risk for most women. So I was
and isn't so interesting with more research. It's like they could find like that 1 in 1,000, the 1 in 10,000, like why when she takes it, it makes her genes express in such a way that she gets it. And then maybe they can make it so it doesn't happen for her.
Well,
and then you don't have to feel like shit in perimenopause and menopause. You guys should not have to feel like shit.
I totally agree, which until it's sometimes good for doctors to be patient every once in a while, because when I was interviewing a patient sort of like this without the microphones, obviously, and I was having these hot flashes and I could not even get through an interview with a patient and provide good medical care. So I went to my care provider and said, talk to me about it. And so we talked about it and we decided that I was a good candidate for it. So I'm very excited, and I would encourage women to really talk to their healthcare providers about it if it's a good option for them. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I have like several friends who I've known for a long time, like in the beauty industry.
Yes.
A couple in particular that are going through perimenopause and menopause right now. And part of why I've been so curious about it is like one has like debilitating symptoms and she keeps getting diagnosed with like all these other mental health things. And I'm like, Queen, every single fucking thing that you have told me, I have had doctors tell me is symptoms of menopause. Like intense mood swings, confusion, irritation, like these big mood swings where they're like, oh, well, you must have, it could be schizophrenia. It could be multiple personalities. It could be bipolar. It could be all of these things. But I'm like, Queen, it literally could just be that you have fucking menopause. Like, and they're telling you that you're fucking nuts, but really it could just be that you have menopause. Let me take that again so it's not so bad. They're telling you that you could have schizophrenia when in reality, it literally could be that you need hormones.
Correct. Listen to the Jonathan Van Ness podcast about menopause.
I really do think it's important.
It is important.
So we're not afraid of that. And then is there anything else as far as just like my stepdad, he passed away of bladder cancer and he loved Diet Pepsi so much. And so much so that I made my mom stop drinking Diet Coke. I made everyone stop drinking diet sodas. Then Addison Rae came out with that song Diet Pepsi. Then I started following Smaller Sam PCOS, and she always ends her like TikToks with a Diet Coke for the haters. And the next thing I knew, I was fucking raw dogging Diet Coke again. And then my mom just saw me raw dogging Diet Coke and she was like, you little son of a bitch, you made me fucking give up Diet Coke when Steve died in 2013. So I lost my husband and I fucking lost Diet Coke. And now you're fucking drinking Diet Coke like it's running away from you. And I was like, yeah, I know that's because this other lady on TikTok said like, oh yeah, like Diet Coke and aspartame is gonna give me cancer. Fuck off. And so then I was like, oh, have I just been being like a big old drama queen about aspartame and cancer? Like, is it fine? So what do you think about that?
I think that anything in moderation is not a bad thing.
What about 3 a day? Too much?
Might be too much caffeine. It's not as hydrating as you probably need for your skin.
Get out of here. You're not going to fool me with that.
I do engage.
Moisturizer.
I was a multiple Diet Coke a day.
And then you stopped because you're an oncologist?
I stopped and moved to water, but I don't judge people. I don't think Diet Coke is the answer.
And then like the cured meats, like you don't do that? What else do you not do?
I'm a vegetarian.
Oh.
Yes, but that's more on the animal grounds, which you know how big a deal it is to go become a vegetarian.
I've been a full vegan. I read Skinny Bitch and I freaked out. I'm not now, but I did it for like 5 years.
How did your family feel about you being a vegan?
My grandma was really mad about it. But then like this one day, like a bowl full of steamed clams with butter sauce knocked me off the wagon and I never got back on. But I love vegetarians and vegans.
Thank you.
Wow. So anything else we should so no cigarette smoking, obviously no hard drugs.
I will say.
But a little shrooms are okay.
I don't know that we know that, scientifically speaking.
But probably. More than meth. As an oncologist, if someone said to you, as an oncologist.
Gun to my head.
Yeah. Fuck, marry, kill. Meth. Mushrooms. Tobacco.
Fuck the cigarettes. Marry the shrooms.
Kill the meth.
Kill the meth?
That is so right, Dr. Wentworth. That is like, I can't believe we cured cancer. Figured out like what the fuck to do in these crazy times. Like you and me together, like all we ever needed was like 2 Midwestern queens to understand cancer better, and we fucking did it. Now, I will tell you that we sourced so many really good listener questions, and I hate to do this to you guys because like I thank you so much for supporting my podcast. And I don't mean to be like, hey, like buy my hair care and like fucking listen to my Patreon. But we are gonna get into some more like really deep, juicy cancer questions on our Patreon, which we're literally gonna record right now. But for now, that's all the time we have for Getting Better. We love you so much, and thanks for coming to listen to us. And when does your book come out? And where are you the most active on social for people to follow you?
Right. So on social, I'm Dr. Stacy Wentworth on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll put a link.
And you can follow me on my Substack, which is Cancer Culture, and it's cancerculture.substack.com.
Dr. Wentworth, are you literally not on TikTok?
I am not on TikTok. I don't do good on the verticals.
Yes, you do. And all I need you to do is do a vertical camera in your fucking office and speak about cancer, and you will literally be the cancer TikTok bitch, and your next book deal will probably have 7 figures. And you can probably like fund the research that these dumb cunts cut.
You think I can do it?
Yes.
Okay.
With your TikTok.
Thank you. Okay. TikTok, here we come.
Thank you for watching this episode of Getting Better. We'll see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.